new book out, Hold the Line. And let's bring Tamara in and talk about it. Hey, how's it going out there?
It's going great, Corey. How are you? Great rant this morning.
Oh, thanks. Well, I've always got lots of rage and fury that I have to vent forth to everybody else, or I'll be yelling on the C trains and they'll think I'm another one of the addicts otherwise. So,
Yes.
so yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody's familiar with your story, but we'll go over a bit of it overall as well. I mean, the last time you were with us, you mentioned there was a book coming, and here it is. It's out. It's published. It's been making a lot of waves. Tell us a little bit. What's the basis of the book? Then is this a first-person narration? Is this giving the history of what happened? What is within that book?
Yeah, well, it's basically telling the story of how I came to be involved and what my involvement was once we got to Ottawa and ever since, really. I love it. I think it captures the story really nicely, and it's a nice, easy read. And I think it'll answer a lot of people's questions. I've been very quiet for the last year, as you know, so I think this will give people an opportunity to have some of their own questions answered also.
Yeah, and you have been quiet, and for good reason on a lot of it. You've had to be. I mean, you've had to be very careful because of your status. For those who don't already know, you're still on bail. There's conditions attached to that. If those are violated, they already showed that there's some people be more than overjoyed to stick you back in holding if they could find an excuse. There's clearly, I'm guessing, since you're still free and talking to me, unless you're in a hidden location, there's no problem then with publishing this book. It's not going to violate any of your bail conditions or anything like that.
No, and we actually sent the draft to my criminal lawyer for him to read and review and edit. And actually, I was a little surprised too. I wasn't sure what he was going to think, but he sent his edits back and said, "Best of luck."
Well, it's good to be careful. I mean, you've already done your share of time in remand. I'm sure you'd rather not have to repeat any of that if you can help it. So, how far back does this book go into the story then? I mean, is this more background on you, or does it kind of begin when the convoy begins, or where does it start?
It starts with basically a brief background about my history and how I ended up becoming involved, but the bulk of the book is all about the whole event, all the convoy, how I came to meet Chris and Bridget, and all the wonderful people that I've been so blessed to work with over the last year and a half, because we've become like family, really, most of us, and so it goes into a lot of the day-to-day things that were happening on the ground there in Ottawa and all the things that we were dealing with. I mean, it was chaos. It was a beautiful, beautiful chaos.
Well, and I mean, you've well yourself have become a polarizing figure because you've become something of a figure recognizable to do with the convoy, which of course was a polarizing event in itself. And I mean, may as well address a little of the misinformation. You're not allowed on social media, but I am, and I get out there and stir everybody up. But of course, as soon as we announced you were coming on, we get the usual people jumping out. And I see the book gives you the opportunity to clarify a lot of things. And of course, one of the things that come, oh, here comes the grifter. She's looking to make more and more money out of this whole thing. And of course, the false allegation that you took money from any of the fundraising or things such as that with the convoy and such. I imagine you can clarify a lot of that within the book, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's always going to be questions about the money. And if this convoy taught me anything, it is really that money is the root of all evil. We had a forensic audit done. Everything is accounted for. All the donations that weren't able to be refunded to people is sitting in an escrow account. We have a $406 million civil lawsuit that we're facing for nuisance. And then we have two orders general of Ontario. One was a forfeiture order and the second was a seizure order. So, I don't even know if we'll ever see those donations. But obviously, if we do win all these cases, our objective is to make sure that that money gets used what it was donated for. And that is we've got registration forms for some of the truckers. Another part of the group also did a poll on Facebook to find out what people wanted. And I mean, that's one of the things that I was always very mindful of, is that we never looked at that as our money. I mean, that was Canadians' money. So it was always important to have their input. And so they conducted a poll to find out, what if people wanted any of those funds, should we ever have access to it to be used for legal representation. over and above refunding, and we had an overwhelmingly positive response. So we'll see. There's lots to get before we even get close to that stage.
So you're not coming to us from a mansion full of servants or anything like that, and sleeping out
No,
yet.
I'm still waiting. I haven't got my Swiss bank accounts opened yet. I also heard I've got property in Mexico and a mansion in Hull, Quebec, and it's just ridiculous. People need to find something better to do with their time. And honestly, it's a Google search. If people really want to know that badly, they could put in some effort and do some research. It's all out there in the public domain.
Well, and you do have to watch what you search. Like if you search Corey Morgan worth, I've had people throw that at me. There's some goofy sites like Celeb Wiki and everything that say that I'm apparently worth between $1 and $5 million. And come on, you think I'd be wearing a cheap sport coat like this if that was the case? I mean, the internet isn't always accurate. And that's where things like getting things straight from the person himself with something like a book, at least you can cut through it and get your direct interpretation of what happened then.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's really important to get the truth out. And I'm really happy, we wanted to try and get this book out a lot sooner, but I'm actually very happy with the timing. I mean, it's really interesting to see what's going to happen with this PSAC strike that's happening out east. See how they're handling that once they start blocking some infrastructure. And, everything happens for a reason. I've always said that. And the timing of this book, I think, is really good. There's a lot of truth coming out now. There's a lot of good things happening, testimony and evidence coming out now again at the National Citizens Inquiry. So yeah, I'm really happy with this, and I hope everybody appreciates it and enjoys it.
Good. Yeah. And I mean, something that I imagine the book will go into. I'm sorry, I apologize. Usually when I get these, I've read the book already, and I'm going to, I promise. I just wasn't able to get a copy in time to do so, but it'll give some clarity too. Like a lot of people don't understand. You didn't anticipate what was going to happen. Like this was a snowball that just grew and sort of took you up within it. I mean, it started as a small initiative and the world went crazy, but you weren't a professional activist. You weren't anticipating or seeing a future or anything like what happened. And I guess the book can show those steps on how you ended up where you did.
Yes. I think in the category of did not see this coming, this is number one for sure.
So did you have some collaboration within the book then with some of the other people who were at the protests with you or prior to it? Like, is it all just yourself in the writing, or are there some other?
Oh no, it references Chris Barber, Bridget, Ben, all the core team that was involved at the beginning. It references all of that too. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole story there. This is the story from my perspective and what my experience was.
Well, and that's an important part to point out. I mean, you're not speaking for the entire convoy or even everything that happened. You didn't see. You were just one person. I mean, certainly one pivotal person, but it was a very decentralized and unusual sort of protest. I mean, you can't really lump it all into one area, but at least you can speak for the part that you were a part of.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I'm happy to say my piece. Very much so.
And it is interesting when you see, yes, the Public Service Alliance of Canada, and I know Nigel, our opinion editor, is working on that, or it might be out pretty soon with a column, pointing out the parallels, though, that we've got people now that are hindering trade across ports of entry, that were blocking things on Parliament Hill, that are keeping people from getting to their work. But I'm not hearing anybody talking about the Emergencies Act with them yet.
No, I know. Isn't it ironic? It really comes down to who's doing the protesting in this country, it seems these days. We were just a bunch of dirty blue collar workers that were going to say our piece. And so I think we were looked upon in some circles with disdain. And why are you here? And so it is interesting to see how these guys are getting treated. And let's see if he opens up some dialogue with them and wants to talk to them and hear what they have to say.
Well, yeah, and that's an excellent point. Like, and I'm not saying we want to get in there with the horses and start batoning the strikers or things like that. Two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, if they are blocking people from getting to work, then perhaps we should work on making room so people can do so and things like that. But I mean, we don't want to see the Emergencies Act imposed against more people. We want to point out just that it was wrong then and it would be wrong now. But it's interesting how they have quite a double standard when it comes to what merits that sort of action.
It certainly is, yes. I'm watching with great interest, put it that way.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully, I mean, as you said too, though, was that there will be dialogue. There's already dialogue. There's negotiators. I mean, even if they're not getting anywhere with the union, that was the biggest, most insulting part of the whole convoy thing. There was never an effort to even make dialogue, even to show up, give you guys 20 minutes, and then walk away and say, okay, they're all crazy, but we tried.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, a little bit of effort goes a long way, in my opinion. In our case, for sure. For sure.
So, what portion? I mean, writing was new to you. I mean, you've always been vocal online and active with things like that. But I mean, I wrote a book recently as well. There were some parts I enjoyed writing more than others, or I could really get into. I mean, was there a part of that engagement? I mean, you had a lot of time being sort of locked down, even post convoy, so that helped. But what do you really feel most satisfied with in that book?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. I enjoyed it. I think it was really therapeutic for me because obviously this book was written before I went to testify at the national or at the POEC in Ottawa. So I found it very therapeutic for myself to get a lot of stuff out. I think one of my favorite things about the book, honestly, is the relationships that we had, that we forged, since. I mean, you're talking about a group of people that had never met before, didn't know each other, and just came together and had this beautiful, crazy experience, all with one common goal of trying to make our country a better place. Uh, the whole thing, Corey, it's so hard to just pick something. I'm really pleased with it. I think there's a lot of good information in there. I've always been a very open person and transparent, and I think it gives people an opportunity to get to know me better, also. So, which is important, and that's always been important to me from day one.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of efforts to really demonize and dehumanize a lot of the people taking part, and that's not unique to the left. There's conservatives who can pretty nasty online as well and doing things like that. We can't forget that there's people behind those news stories and people behind these events that are going on, and giving the opportunity at least to speak up for themselves. You don't have to agree with them, but show a little respect, I guess, and
So
hopefully.
true. I've seen people that wish I would wish me dead. I've seen comments, that they wish I would go back to jail, or that they want me to go to jail for the rest of my life. Like, I guess the thing is that they don't understand is that if that gets allowed to happen in this case, this government isn't going to be in power forever. So next time it could be them with a different government in power, So it's a really important case. I think me and Chris's criminal trial is going to be very important and set a precedent for what's going to happen for all Canadians going forward in cases like this.
Yeah, and while I've got you, then before I let you go, so how are things going with your criminal trial? I mean, things just go so agonizingly slowly through our system. Is the timeline progressing at all with that?
Well, we've been in and out of court hearings for the last month and a half, I guess. Nothing really was solved. Monday morning, we did get a decision from the trial judge that she is going to stay our trial judge, which is very good news for us because that means hopefully everything will stay on schedule. Chris and I are co-accused, and so we'll be facing trial together, and that is set to commence on September the 5th and last for 2 weeks.
Well, hopefully, I mean, we're hoping for a positive resolution, but I just imagine a resolution whatsoever is just, hanging halfway between has got to be stressful.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the punishment is in the process, right?
Yes, absolutely. And they certainly used every bit of it that they could. So before I let you go, where can people find a copy of that book for themselves? And are there any events or things you'll be going to promote it?
Yeah, I think I'm coming to Calgary on May 6th for a book signing. I haven't quite confirmed it yet, but it sounds like it'll be May 6th at the Canyon Meadows Cinemas. And then we'll be scheduling a tour here. I was gone yesterday, so I didn't have access to my emails, but I'll be checking that today, and we'll be starting a book tour right away and some book signings. Right now, you can find the book at theconvoybook.com or right from Amazon also. So
Well,
very
excellent.
excited. I hope everybody likes it.
I hope
You have to let me
so.
know what you think, Corey.
I will get it. I don't BS when I say I'm going to read a book. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for writing that and everything you've done, Tamara, and thanks for coming on again today. And yeah, I'll send a note once I've finished reading your book there.
Perfect. My pleasure. And thanks so much for having me. It's always good to see you.
Great. Thanks, Tamara.
Have a great day.
Thanks. So that was Tamara Lich. And yes, that new book, as you can see, it's quite easy to find. Just look it up. Look up Tamara, Hold the Line. It's on Amazon, and she'll be going around promoting it. It's good to get direct stories on what happened. I mean, especially something as haywire as the convoy and thing. Let's get some clarity. And you might not agree with everything she's written. I mean, in fact, if you agreed with everything, there's probably something a little wrong with you. We got different points of view. That's the problem we have these days. Nobody's respecting other points of views. So this is where you can clarify some stuff and get that out there. And I get annoyed with that. Oh, it's grifting. Well, you know what? You don't have to buy the book. That's grifting is when the gun's to your head. And the ones who do that are the government, not private enterprise. This is private enterprise. Don't buy the book if you don't like it then. But, I'm going to buy it. And I'm certainly going to review it and talk about it. Hey, if it's terrible and everything else, I'll be real polite about it, but I'll still give an honest review. But I'm sure it'll be good.